Alright, so in the last video we went ahead and exported out a few of these models. For example, our high-res ugly monster and our low. And again, we did that by going to export. We exported an OBJ of our low ugly monster. We exported a OBJ of our high. And then in our Maya binary, we exported this one that we're going to take into Maya. Okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at X normals. If you do a Google search for Santiago in X normal, you'll get the site. Okay, so I'm going to go under high definition mesh, and I'm going to go ahead and clear out my settings here, and we're going to take a look at rendering out our textures for our ugly monster. So let's go ahead and let's see. Let's remove both of these meshes. So under high definition mesh here, this button here, I'm just going to right click and go to add meshes. And I already have it set up for my ugly monster folder. And let's see. Go to ugly monster, and I'm going to select my high. I'm going to hit open. And there's a setting that you need to do, which is turn off ignore pre-vertex color. This right here is actually vertex coloring when you're painting on your model. You're actually painting the vertices a specific color, and when the light hits it, it casts that color across the surface. So let's go to low definition mesh, and let's right click and do add meshes. And let's just select our low. With this one, it doesn't really matter. And you can leave these settings for ray distance and stuff. Pretty much all the same. Let's go to baking options. I went ahead and created a folder called textures. And in that folder, I named it Ugly Monster. And what's going to happen is when we go to bake it, and I wanted to go out and bake out a few examples before, just so you can see what happens, is when we name it Ugly Monster, you're not going to name it Ugly Monster Normals. You're just going to type in Ugly Monster and hit save. It'll start to bake out the options. So here's our normal map. And we'll take a look at our diffuse. Here's our occlusion. And then here comes our color map, which is baked out of our high. So it should take a second. So there's our color map, and then we'll put it all together inside of Photoshop and Maya. So go ahead and name yours Ugly Monster and hit save, and then go ahead and hit generate maps. Now when I do it, oh actually hold off for a second before you do that. Make sure that these two settings are 2048. We want a normal map. We want an ambient occlusion map. We can actually go ahead and bake out a convexity map, and you can see that it decreases my RAM every time I do this. And we definitely want bake high poly vertex colors. This is what's going to take these vertex colors from here and bake it onto our low. So let's go ahead and hit generate maps at this point. And I'm going to pause it because this can kind of take a while, and I'll just unpause it between each map. And you can see here that it's starting to bake my normal, and then my occlusion, and then my color map. And again, it's asking me to overwrite each one. Here's our occlusion map. Our convexity map. And then the next one will be our color map. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and open up Maya so I can show you how to load all these maps up. So I'm going to pause the video at this point. Okay, at this point, I'm just going to go to File, Open, and I'm going to open up that Maya file. So let's go to Desktop, Ugly Monster, and here's that low that we saved off from ZBrush. Now, sometimes the model will actually be set below ground, and you can see here that it's flipped upside down. So I actually built it inverse. What it would have been a little bit better is if I turned on floor in ZBrush, so we could have seen that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit 5, and you can see we actually have like a mid-level poly model here. So what you can do is just click on Rotate X, for example, and I'm middle mouse clicking in the scene. Or you can just type in 180. And you want to make sure the back of our model is here, and our front is here. I'm just going to hit W and sort of move him up above the ground. Like this. And again, we're taking him in Game Engine, so so we want to make sure that we have him above ground and that his pivot point is set on the center axis. So I'm just going to go to my front view, and he appears to be lined up pretty good. Like here's his center point. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm holding spacebar, right clicking on the word Maya and going to perspective, And I'm going to hold the D as in duck key down, and that allows me to move this around. And as I do that, I can hold X. So I'm holding D and X here, and it'll allow me to snap to grid. If you have trouble doing that, you might, and you're like hitting X and you're wondering why it's not snapping to the grid, you have to release the mouse, then hold X, and then click back on, it'll snap. And you want to make sure that it's in between his legs. Now you'll notice that our settings here are sort of screwed up, so we want to go to Modify. We want to go to Freeze Transformation. Okay. The next thing you want is, we want to apply our map. So I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go down to Assign New Material. Now the naming of our map is extremely important. So let's go with a Lambert for now. And instead of Lambert 2, I want to name this Ugly Monster and Texture. The reason why it's important that you name it something like this is because when we bring it into Unity, it's going to use this name for the material name. So go ahead under Color, let's select this color option here. And I'm just going to navigate to that Textures folder. So Desktop, where's my Ugly Monster, Textures, Color, and I'm going to hit Open. You can see there's our map. We want to actually, our maps are coming off because their target is 32-bit. So a couple things we can do so that it's not transparent like this is we can resave it in Photoshop, or under the material settings, so go to Material Attributes. And actually one of my students, Kyle Stewart, actually showed me this trick, so I really owe him the credit. Let's see, it seems like it's lagging a little bit. There we go. Material Attributes again. If you right click on the word transparency and hit break connection, it removes that transparency. Alright, so I'm going to right click again. And here's actually something interesting to bring up. I'm going to go ahead and render this. There's these lines here. So if I hit render, if they appear in my render, which they do, there's a setting inside of X normals. So you can see my edge padding is at 0 here. I'm going to increase my edge padding to maybe 5. And I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and then re-hit Generate Maps. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go to Material Attributes, and let's reload our texture. Yeah, so that edge padding cleared up those seams. So if we hit render at this point, we should be able to, yeah, there we go. Another thing I want to do is sort of soften the edges on this guy. He's really faceted. So I'm going to shift right click after I select all of those edges and go to Soften Harded Edge and soften those edges. Alright. See, it's very soft. And okay, so last thing, let's apply our normal map. So under bump mapping, I'm going to go here, File, change it to Tangent Space Normals, open up this folder, select my normals, and hit Open. Alright, so let's go to High Quality, see how that looks. Cool, looks just like it does in ZBrush. What I normally do is under my Material Attributes, I kind of increase the incandescence a little bit, just so I can see it better in the view, especially if it's a cartoony model. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to take a look at building a custom rig. Not building a custom, we're actually going to use something called AV Auto Rigger to re-rig our model.